The message arrived at 6:14 in the morning. Your fence is gone. At first, I thought my neighbor was joking, but when I stepped outside, the entire back fence had been cut down overnight. Not removed, not dismantled, cut. And leaning against the grass was a note from the HOA, an authorized structure, removed by order of the board. They thought that was the end of it. What they didn't know was that by cutting that fence, they crossed a legal line they could never step back over. Lily was born with a condition called spina bifida. She's been through 4 surgeries before the age of 9. But if you ever met her, you'd never know it. She laughs louder than anyone in the room. She draws pictures of horses on every surface she can find. And every single morning, she stands at the front window and waves at the neighbors as they drive to work. The fence was for Lily. See, our backyard borders a steep hill that drops into a drainage ditch. It's not dangerous for most kids, but for Lily, one bad fall could mean a broken spine. The doctors were clear about that. So, when we moved into Pine Grove Estates, the very first thing I did, before I even unpacked boxes, was plan that fence. My father, God rest his soul, he drove up from Alabama with his truck bed full of cedar planks. We spent 3 weekends building it together, post by post, panel by panel. My father kept saying, Marcus, you build this strong enough, and nothing in this world can knock it down. He passed away that December, heart attack sudden. The fence was the last thing we ever built together. So yes, that fence was more than wood and paint. That fence was the last piece of my father I had left on this earth. Lily used to walk along it every evening and count the panels. She'd say, Daddy, Grandpa's fence keeps me safe every single night. Grandpa's fence keeps me safe. Richard Caldwell had lived in Pine Grove Estates for 22 years. He had been HOA president for 9 of them. He was a retired property developer, a man who had built entire subdivisions from scratch, who had shaken hands with city council members who had once been featured in a regional real estate magazine under the headline, The Man Who Shapes Neighborhoods. He was not a cruel man, but he was a precise one. And precise men, when they have authority, can do tremendous damage without ever raising their voice. Caldwell ran the HOA like a corporation, every rule enforced, every violation documented, every deviation from the approved aesthetic corrected, whether you wanted it corrected or not. To him, Marcus Webb was file numbered 1247, a bus driver on Maple Run Court, who had installed a 6-foot cedar privacy fence in a neighborhood where the regulations technically allowed only 4-foot decorative fencing in the front yard buffer zone. Caldwell sent the first letter on a Tuesday. It was polite, official, cold. Dear resident of 14 Maple Run Court, it has come to the association's attention that a non-compliant structure has been erected on your property. Per Section 7.4b of the Pine Grove Estates Covenants, conditions and restrictions, all fence installations must not exceed 48 inches in height within the designated buffer zone. You have 30 days to bring your property into compliance. Failure to do so will result in the association exercising its right to remedy the violation at the homeowner's expense. The fence was in the backyard, not the front, not the buffer zone, the backyard. Marcus knew this. He had read those CC-inners twice before he broke ground. He had even emailed the HOA office to confirm placement. He had received a response, a brief one, that said simply noted. He wrote back. He explained the situation. He attached the email chain, the medical documentation from Lily's neurologist, the survey map showing the fence was nowhere near the buffer zone. Caldwell never responded personally, but the HOA board sent a second letter, then a third, each one colder than the last, each one citing a different subsection, a different clause, a different obscure interpretation of the rulebook. And then, on a Wednesday morning, while Marcus was driving his school bus route, they came. Marcus, baby, you need to come home. They're here with trucks. They're taking down the fence. Marcus, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Long pause, the sound of a school bus engine idling. Is Lily home? She's at school. But Marcus, they're not stopping. I told them to wait. They didn't listen to me. Marcus finished his route. He had to. 27 children, counting on him to get them to school safely. He drove the whole route with his hands at 10 and 2, jaw tight, breathing slow. He did not rush. He did not panic. He delivered every single child to their school on time. When he arrived home at 9:47 a.m., the fence was gone. Not trimmed, not adjusted, gone. Completely removed. The cedar planks, some of them still bearing faint brush strokes from the paint his father had applied were piled in the street. Like trash, a two-person crew was loading them into the back of a truck. "Sorry man, we're just doing our job," HOA order. Marcus nodded. Slowly, he walked to the pile of planks. He reached down and picked up one board. One specific board near the bottom of the pile. On the back, in faded pencil, were the words, "Built by Marcus and Earl Webb. August 2022 for Lily." His father had written that quietly without telling anyone. Marcus had never even seen it. Until that moment, he held that board against his chest and stood there for a long time. And then, something changed in his face. The grief didn't go away, but underneath it, something else arrived. Something quiet and determined, the kind of look a man gets when he decides he is done being patient. That evening, Lily came home from school and walked to the back of the yard. She stood at the edge of the hill, exposed now, the drop visible, the ditch below. She turned around and looked at her father. "Daddy, where's Grandpa's fence?" "They took it, baby. Can we get it back?" "No, we're not going to get it back. We're going to do something better. Show more 1038. And Marcus Webb spent every evening of those 3 weeks reading, not news, not social media. He read the Pine Grove Estate CC inners, all 64 pages of them, cover to cover, 3 times. He read the state's property law statutes. He read HOA governance regulations. He found a legal aid clinic the town's over and spoke to a volunteer attorney named Diana Park, who specialized in HOA disputes. And here is what Marcus found. First, his fence had not been in the buffer zone. The HOA's own survey records, which Marcus obtained through a public records request to the county, confirmed that his installation was 20 feet inside the property line. Section 7.4b applied only to front yard structures. Within 15 feet of the street, his fence was in the backyard. The violation notice had cited the wrong section entirely. Second, the HOA's right to remedy violations at homeowner expense under Section 9.1 required a formal hearing before any physical action could be taken. Marcus had never been offered a hearing. He had never been notified of one. He had never been given the opportunity to present his medical documentation, his survey, or his email correspondence to the board. Third, and this was the one that made Diana Park sit up straight in her chair, Section 12.7 of the CC inners, which Caldwell himself had inserted into the revised rulebook in 2019, stated that any enforcement action affecting a homeowner with a documented medical accommodation request must be reviewed under the Fair Housing Act provisions. Lily's neurologist had written a formal accommodation letter. Marcus had submitted it. The HOA had received it, logged it, and proceeded with demolition anyway. Marcus, what they did isn't just a rules violation. What they did may be a federal Fair Housing Act violation, and there's more. The board approved this action in a closed session, which is itself a violation of their own governance bylaws. You have standing to sue. I don't want to sue them. I want something better than that. Is there a way to make sure they can never do this to anyone else again and make them face it publicly? Yes, there is. Show more 1046 and the agenda was routine, budget review, landscaping contract renewal, updates to the pool schedule. Richard Caldwell had run dozens of these meetings. He expected this one to last 40 minutes. He did not expect Marcus Webb to walk in, carrying a manila folder and accompanied by Diana Park, an attorney with a county legal aid badge clipped to her jacket. The meeting ran through its agenda items. Then, under the open comment period, Marcus stood up. "My name is Marcus Webb. I live at 14 Maple Run Court. I have lived here for 4 years. I've never missed an HOA fee, never had a noise complaint, never had a dispute with a neighbor. But 3 weeks ago, this board sent a crew to my home and demolished a structure that I built legally with my own hands to protect my 9-year-old daughter, who is spina bifida. I want to be respectful tonight. I'm not here to be angry. I'm here because I believe most of the people in this room are good people who deserve to know what happened and what almost happened to their rights as homeowners." Marcus then presented his findings calmly and methodically to the room. He showed the survey map on a projected screen. He read Section 7.4b aloud. He showed the buffer zone measurement. He showed the email he had sent asking for clarification and the HOA's response saying noted. He showed Lily's accommodation letter. He showed the timestamp on the demolition work order, which came before any hearing had been scheduled. The room was completely silent. Then Marcus turned to face the board directly. Mr. Caldwell, you have been on this board for 9 years. I respect what you've built here. I know you care about this neighborhood, but on August 14th, this board violated its own bylaws, violated the Fair Housing Act, and destroyed something irreplaceable to my family, not because of a legitimate violation, but because no one on this board double-checked the work order before they signed it. One of the other board members, a younger woman named Carol Sung, who had joined the board only 6 months prior, leaned toward her microphone. Were we given the survey documentation before the work order was approved? I don't think we reviewed the survey. The violation notice had already been drafted when it came to us for approval. So we approved a demolition order without reviewing whether the violation was even valid. This could happen to any of us. It did happen to the Garcias 2 years ago. They had to remove a wheelchair ramp. Diana Park stepped forward and addressed the board. Quietly, but precisely, she outlined the Fair Housing Act exposure. She outlined the bylaw violations. She outlined Marcus's legal options. And then she outlined what Marcus was actually asking for instead. What do you want, Mr. Webb? I want 3 things. I want a formal written apology from this board. I want the board to fund the replacement of my fence, the exact same cedar, the same dimensions, the same design. And I want this board to establish a mandatory review process so that no accommodation request is ever bypassed again. Those are the 3 things I want. I'll second all 3. Let's put it to a vote. The new fence went up on a Saturday in October. Same cedar, same dimensions, same white paint. A crew of 12 people showed up to help. Neighbors mostly. Carol Sung brought coffee and breakfast sandwiches. A few board members came and worked alongside Marcus. Even Richard Caldwell showed up. He didn't say much. He picked up a post digger and got to work. Around noon, he walked over to Marcus, who was checking the level on a corner post. I owe you more than an apology. I owe you honesty. I pushed those enforcement actions because I wanted compliance. I didn't ask questions I should have asked. I didn't see you as a father trying to protect his daughter. I saw a file number. I'm sorry for that, Marcus. I am genuinely sorry. I know you are. Let's make sure it means something. The formal written apology from the HOA board was published in the community newsletter and posted on the HOA's official website. It acknowledged the procedural failures, the Fair Housing Act implications, and offered a direct apology to the Webb family by name. The review process, now called the Accommodation First Protocol, was written into the CC-Inners at a special session the following month. Every accommodation request now triggers an automatic 90-day hold on any enforcement action, mandatory legal review, and a resident hearing before any physical remedy can be authorized. Diana Park helped Marcus file a formal complaint with the State HOA Regulatory Board, not to punish Caldwell personally, but to create a public record that other homeowners could reference if they ever faced similar situations. And Marcus did one more thing. With a small settlement the HOA agreed to for $1,200, Marcus didn't keep the money for himself. He donated it to a local nonprofit that provides free legal consultations to low-income homeowners facing HOA disputes. He called it the Earl Webb Fund, named for his father. His grandpa in this one too. Baby, your grandpa is in every single one. He stays there for a moment, hand resting on the fence post. He looks up at the sky. He takes a slow breath. Then he turns and follows his daughter home. Marcus Webb didn't win because he was louder than the HOA. He didn't win because he got angry or went viral or made threats. He won because he did something most people never do when they feel powerless. He sat down. He read everything. He understood the rules better than the people enforcing them. And then he walked into the room calmly, clearly, and asked for exactly what was fair. He didn't want revenge. He wanted a fence and something that would outlast the fence. The legal barrier they can't cross. It was never a physical structure. It was knowledge, preparation, the quiet, unshakable confidence of a man who had done his homework and knew he was right. Because sometimes the most powerful thing a person can build is an offense. It's the kind of case that makes the other side realize they were wrong and that the world is watching. Grandpa's fence kept Lily safe, and Marcus made sure that fence would keep other families safe, too, long after the wood is gone, long after the paint fades. That's what it looks like when an ordinary person refuses to be a file member.